Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Elevate Us. And this is, the conversation about elevating Black America, seeing what we can do to start making some changes so we can start progressing and moving forward. Let's stop talking about it. Let's be about it. That's what we're doing here. So, I'm gonna just do okay. First, I'll do a quick recap of last week's conversation just so that there's some clarity in what I was talking about. The main point that I was trying to make about last week's conversation is that we are being ruled and controlled by people that come from us. All right, I'm gonna just set that right there. We know this by now. We know that we are they mamas. They wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for us. So we gotta just start learning how to be who we are and take our rightful place. So I'm not gonna get too detailed. You got to go back and watch what I talked about last week to understand what I'm saying. But just know that they come from us. Just know that we are the creators. We was put in charge. We was the ones that was put here to guard the garden. So you take from that what you want. All right. So then now, next thing is I was gonna talk about something today, but last minute I had a change of mind. I want to talk about something else. So, and I'll get to that in a second and I'll let you know what we're going to talk about. But before we get into it, my question of the day is, do you eat to live or do you live to eat? And the reason why I want to talk about food and eating and, eating habits is because that's very big in the Black community. We love to eat. We have such a relationship with food, and you better not talk about nobody's nothing. You better not talk about what they eat and how they eat it. And the minute you talk about eating healthy, you're the outcast, and everybody looking at you like you crazy. So it's just we live in a society where we eat things that we know generation after generation, that we've watched all of our ancestors die from this food. We continue to eat the same foods, just like they said on Soul Food. We watch Big Mama make all this food. They sit down every Sunday, eat the food. She gained all the weight, and then she had diabetes, and then she had to get amputated, and then she died. And then what they say on the Boondocks, and he said, what they do? They sat back down the next Sunday and they ate the same food that just killed Big Mama. So, you know, it is what it is. I get it, but do you eat to live or do you live to eat? So, the conversation that I'm having today is a very personal one. I don't have no books, I don't have no notes because this is a whole conversation from the heart. So, I'm going to talk about what me and my youngest daughter had to experience with her having cancer. So in 2009, my daughter, she was 15 months old at the time. And she was born Down syndrome, so we kind of knew that she would have some challenges here and there. But honestly, she just started progressing normally. She started reaching all her milestones. She started doing everything on time. But then, right about her first birthday, she started to lose energy and she started to lose a lot of weight. So we were going back and forth to the doctors, and I'm trying to find out what's wrong with my baby. She's having fevers of 105. The doctors are telling us, oh, she's just teething, give her gripe water. She has a belly ache. And I'm telling them, this is baby number 5. And children don't have fevers of 105. So they just kept sending us home, sending us home. We did this for 6 months until finally one doctor, I had to make her, I stopped her and I said, listen, something is wrong with my child. She went from almost walking to now she can't even lift her head. So the doctor, she said, has she had a blood panel done? I said, no one's doing anything. They're just telling me to give her Tylenol and sending us away. So she immediately said, let's do a blood panel. Did a blood panel, and she comes back in and she says, you have to get your baby to Loma Linda. I was in California. She said, you have to get your baby to Loma Linda right away. She's like, don't even stop home. Don't get no clothes, nothing. Just, I already called the hospital. I told them that you guys are on your way. And, she said, I'm not trying, I don't want to scare you. She said, but just based on your baby's blood work, she possibly has cancer. So, when you hear that, your brain goes into a million places because honestly, at that time, and it's like I've seen family members with cancer, and things going on, but it's just at that time it just didn't even go through my brain that we get cancer, like my baby would get cancer. So get to Loma Linda, and instantly you walk in there, and from the moment you walk in the door, it's like a team of doctors rushed us. They started doing all this different things, all these different things to her, and instantly they're telling me, "Hey, she needs a blood transfusion." I didn't even have time to stop and think about it, So it's like, whatever we need to do, let's just do it. So she had 3 blood transfusions. And because her blood count was so low that she was really, I can't remember the numbers right now, because I didn't sit down and put this talk together. But her blood count was so severely low that I was right there on the verge of losing my child. And again, I say it took me 6 months to even get a diagnosis of this, right? So 3 blood transfusions later, and she finally, after the third transfusion, she lifted her head up and she looked at me. And mind you, my baby is 15 months old at this time. She's just a baby. And so we had to start our road with leukemia. They came in, the doctors came in, it was like a whole round table of doctors. They had all these big books and they were putting stuff on the table, and the doctor's like, your baby has cancer. She has leukemia. She has ALL, which is acoustic lymphoblastic leukemia. And, they're telling me that this is a cancer of the blood. And the way that this cancer forms is there's a blast in the blood cells that causes the cancer to form. It attacks the bone marrow, blah, blah, blah. A lot of information for someone that's just finding out that their baby, has cancer. So it's like, sign here, sign this, do this, do that, this, that, and the other. So I'm just signing stuff and just going. And then they give me this big giant manual, and they're like, here, this should explain everything. And push it in front of me. So at the time, I was very emotionless. And that's kind of my MO. I really don't, I don't really react too much on emotion. I was just sitting there trying to process everything, and the doctors are like, Mom, it's okay. You can cry and you can let it out and you can show emotion. So my thing was, I didn't have tears at that moment. I was like, well, what do we do to fix this? What do I need to do? So they're like, well, you just trust us, and, we'll do whatever needs to be done. We're going to start her on chemo right away, and possibly radiation and all this other stuff. So in my mind, I'm just thinking, I really I don't want to put her through all of this. But I was just very unsure at the time, because when you get a cancer diagnosis, all you know is to trust the doctor. That's all you know. Especially when it's something so new, something that, you've never dealt with before, and you want to trust these people, because your life is on the line. My child's life was on the line. So all I could do was put my trust in them. So we start chemo, and she's having lumbar punctures where they have to go into her spine, and they have to take out her fluids. They're testing the fluid, the cancer cells. So she's having that done, and then she's also having bone marrow biopsies where they're taking this tube. It's a hollow tube that they're sticking into her hip, and they're pulling out pieces of her bone, to test. And that this is a very, you could just tell it's a very painful process that she's going through. So now I go and I start talking to the older children so I can get a better understanding of, what it's, because with her, she's, she can't communicate. So I have no idea what she's going through. I could just see, just in her energy and how she's looking. And, so we go through this, and I'm just really watching the health of my baby just diminish. So after a couple of months of doing this, we're back and forth in the hospital, and like we go into the hospital, we're spending like 30 to 60 days at a time in the hospital. And then I got, 3 other children that are just being bounced around. So I just felt like my whole life was just like flipped and turned upside down, but it's like I couldn't focus on anything at that time other than, her and making sure that she was good. So started doing the chemo, and the chemo made her really sick, like really sick. Like she wasn't eating anything. She was constantly, vomiting, constantly diarrhea. She was losing so much weight, and she was getting constant infections. So we were back and forth over all these different infections and all these different things that was going on. So now, mind you, I've always eaten pretty healthy. From the time I stopped eating pork when I was 14, 15 years old, still at my mama's house, because I never really liked pork as a child. So my kids, they have gone through my children, the other kids, most of them never even had an antibiotic in their life. They really didn't go to the doctors. My third child, she didn't even go to the doctor. I don't even know if she went to the doctor for like little small things. But my kids never really went to the doctor. So my oldest one, I was 19 when I had her, and she was asthmatic, so she had all these different problems going on with her. But after I came into some understanding about some things, I changed the way we eat. So we lived a pretty healthy lifestyle. So I'm kind of thinking like, well, how does she get cancer? Because to my understanding at the time, not much knowledge of it was, that it was based on diet or environmental factors, or whatever the case may be. So because the chemo really started to take a toll on her, and she really started to lose so much weight, she was now approaching her second birthday, and she weighed 14 pounds. So because of that, they put a feeding tube in her nose, and she wouldn't take anything by mouth, not even water. If we tried to give her water, even if I would try to syringe water in her mouth, she would just spit it out because she wouldn't swallow it. So here we are now, with this chemo destroying her little body. And, she's walking around now with a feeding tube backpack on her. I just got to a point where I said, this is enough. Enough is enough. They're not going to take my baby out like this. So I started doing some research. I pulled out my laptop, and I started to just type in, natural ways to cure cancer. Like, how do we cure cancer? And in my search, I came across Dr. Sebi. And I just started reading through some of the stuff that they had online, started going through a lot of the he had some court cases where he had to take in all of his documentation, and it just showed all these different cases of not just cancer, but HIV and sickle cell anemia and all these different diseases, and it was, they would show the panel, the blood work before and the blood work after. And it was like cured, 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 cured. Right. So I'm going through, I'm looking at everything. And at this time, this was in 2010, they had, I went to his actual site, and he had a full protocol on the site on how to cure cancer. And he was doing this in Mexico successfully. So I know a lot of people always tell me, oh, don't talk about this because, the government don't like you talking about stuff. But I'm just going to put a disclaimer that everything that I did with my daughter, this is just what worked for us. This is what we did. This worked for us. I was by no means no medical professional. I don't have no degrees, no certificates, especially at that time. I didn't even know what I know now. I just took a step out on faith, and I just trusted God, and we just went with, what God told me to do with this whole thing. So I started the protocol, and I'm not going to go over the protocol on here. I won't say exactly what we did, but, and anybody that I give out information for free all the time. So anybody that wants to contact me and they want to know what we did, I will tell you exactly what we did. So we started the protocol. And so little by little, because in his protocol, it said if you have already started chemo, then there were certain ways that you had to do things. So because we had already started the chemo, I just followed the directions that he gave. And then little by little, I started to decrease the amount of chemo that I was giving her. And then finally, I got to a point where I was not giving her any more chemo at all. So they had certain days of the week she had to go in, and it was intrathecal, where they would go in. She had a port in, and she also would have a, a line put in, a pick line. So I stopped taking her to the appointments, and then I just made a decision. The decision came after our last visit, and we went in, and the doctor said she had an infection in her eye. And so the infection, it swelled up, but then it cleared up really fast. But it still had left behind, a little bit of, she still had some swelling in her eye. So her doctor came in, and, he said, well, I want to go in and take a look. And I said, well, can we get a second opinion? So he said, that's fine. Got a second opinion. The other doctor came in and said, well, it's not an active infection. So it will just clear up on its own. So I was satisfied with that. But then her doctor tells me I'm going to take her in just to do for observation. He brings her back about an hour and a half later. She has a patch on her eye, and he cut into her eye, even though it was just said that she did not have an active infection in her eye and that there was no need for him to go in and cut it to her eye. He went in and did it anyway. And I can tell you at that point I was livid. Like I literally went off. When she came back, she had pick lines, she had all kinds of stuff. I went off on this doctor. First of all, why did you cut into her eye? We just had this conversation. They told you it's not an active infection. I told him straight up, this is my child. She is not a billable hour, because all they do every time they cut into you, every time they do any kind of surgery, they make money off of that. They get paid for it. And that was the sole reason why he went in and he did this surgery on my daughter's eye without telling me. But what happens is when you're at these hospitals and you sign all this paperwork, you're signing away authorization for them to do these type of things, because now they have their signature on the paperwork. So I like I said, I unplugged everything. I'm pulling lines out, I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And the nurses are like, you can't do that. You need to stop. We're going to go get security. Go get security. So I'm telling them I'm taking my baby home. And then they're like, well, you have to sign this form saying that you're taking her against the doctor's order, blah, blah, blah. So, I grab the form, I tear it up, I throw it in the nurse's face. And the nurse tries to stand in front of the door in the hospital to tell me that I can't take my baby. So literally, I had to pick up a chair and and I had to let them know that either you're gonna move out my way and I'm taking my child, or this gonna go down the hard way. So needless to say, they moved out the way. I got my child and we left out of there. And that was the last time that Loma Linda saw us. And from there, any medication that she was on, I threw it all away, every bit of it. And the only issue was she still had her port. So we I ended up coming back to Las Vegas, and I had calls coming in from not just the doctors but from the hospitals and all these other programs telling me, you signed saying that, we can use her cells for testing and all these other things, and it's against the law in the state of California for you to do this, for you to take her without doctor's consent, blah blah blah. They were threatening me, telling me that, that they literally can arrest me for child endangerment. So oh, and before all of that happened, before the eye incident, her doctor, they came in and he tested her blood, and he said, what are you doing with her? I said, what do you mean? He said, are you still giving her chemo? I said, yeah, still giving her the chemo. And he said, because right now her blood count is better than a healthy adult. He said, so what is it that you're doing with her? So he knew that I was healing her, and when you have cancer or you have any of these diseases, they want you to think that this is the end all, and you have to come to them and you have to be at their mercy, so that allows them to do whatever it is they want to do or need to do with you. But that is not the case. We have, our bodies have natural mechanisms in it to cure itself. And with the right foods and with the right herbs, we can cure ourselves from anything. So I'm not saying that, I cure this or I cure that. I'm saying that what we did, along with the protocols that we followed from Dr. Sabi, my daughter has now been cancer free for 11 years. So the last time, actually 12 years, because it was 2011 when they said she was supposed to be on chemo for a total of the first time they told us it was going to be 2 years, and we did chemo probably for 1 year, and then after I started to do the protocol, within 3 months she was cancer free. So just literally within a 3 month span of us doing the things that we were supposed to do with her, she was cancer free. And she's been cancer free for 11 years and she's healthy. We did have a hiccup, and that was last year in May. She went into a diabetic coma. And that was again me falling off of our eating habits. We were opening up Easy Days. And with us in the process of opening up the store, I was allowing her to just, eat junk. And when I say junk, we were eating maybe chicken sandwiches, french fries. She was eating Takis and hot Cheetos, and she was eating all kinds of crap. I don't know. I just lost my mind. So she, passed out on me and rushed to Sunrise. And when she got there, her glucose was at 800, and she stayed in a diabetic coma for 3 days. Right. So when we get there, the doctors are, telling me once she woke up and they're giving her food to eat, the doctor is telling me, oh, she can have pancakes and she can have Rice Krispie treats, and they bring her burgers and all this stuff, and I'm just telling them we're on a vegan diet. Can you bring any whatever you have on your menu that's vegan? And they gave me so much pushback, and they wanted to fight me about this. So of course, I had my crew. They brought us some food in, so I was able to feed her what I wanted to feed her. But from that time, they gave us the insulin. We went home with the insulin, and that was June. I started her on a fast. I started giving her herbs and sea moss and spring water. And within, I'm going to say, 3 weeks, her glucose went down, because when we went home, her glucose was about 250. And within that 3-4 week span, her glucose went down to 110, and then it went to 90, and then it just stayed there. And then that's where she's been now, because we've completely gone back to our natural eating habits, trying to stay as alkaline as possible, which is kind of hard in this world. But we do cook a lot at home, but there's times we go out, so we do have our little cheat days here and there. So the purpose of this is to say that we as a community, we eat so much stuff, and we eat so much processed foods, and we eat so many foods that cause mucus, so dairy and meat and highly processed foods, potatoes and all these different things. They are mucus forming foods, and what happens is when your body produces too much mucus, the mucus is going to cover your organs, and it doesn't allow for your organs to properly breathe. So you're not getting proper oxygen into your organs, and when that happens, then that's where disease is formed. That mucus, it causes disease to form around your organs, and that's how you get sick. And this mucus can form around the kidneys and the liver and the spleen and the colon and the brain. It can get all over. It just literally can encompass your whole body. So we have to be very mindful of the foods that we eat. And I know we've been brainwashed and programmed to eat these things. I grew up eating pancakes and waffles and biscuits and, grits and eggs and all this stuff for breakfast, but we're in a world now where we have too much knowledge, too much information to still be eating the same way that we've been eating. And I know for black people, it's a big industry. We make a lot of money off of this stuff, but I know a lot of people that cook this food and sell this food, and they have health problems themselves. So it's like we have to start being more mindful. We have to start thinking about things differently, and we have to be more conscious about what we're putting into our bodies. That's if you plan on being here for a long time. So it's just all based on, what your plan is in this life. Do you plan on being here, What kind of quality of life do you want to have? If do you want to go into old age, you jumping and skipping, or do you want to be in a wheelchair? I had to watch my grandmother, who I loved dearly, get her leg amputated from diabetes, and then they wanted to amputate the second leg, and to watch that, just to see her and her spirit, knowing who she was and what she used to do, that was heart wrenching. It was just heart wrenching. So to me, after seeing that, I never wanted to eat sugar again, because that tore me up. So it's just we can't keep watching these same things and watching our people having heart attacks, and and we know it's the food. It's like, wake up. Wake up. Just understand that the food is going to kill you. So that's the story I had to tell today, because it was just on my heart and I wanted to share that story. And I rarely, like I said, I don't go into the details too much of it, because that they really was looking for us, but it's been so many years now that I'm not even concerned about it no more. So my daughter is cancer free and they can't do nothing about it. So last thing I want to talk about is, this is Get Mossed. So Get Mossed is an energy drink. And this energy drink is all natural. There's no sugar. It's agave, and it's natural spring water, key lime, and natural herbs in it. This drink will literally give you natural energy. And I'm not talking about Red Bull energy. I'm talking about the natural energy that it's more mental, because now your brain is sending signals to your body to tell it what to do. And it gives you, if you're working out, or if you just, if you need to complete some task, or if you're, doing some writing, whatever it is, it gives you that mental clarity that you need to get through your day and to get things accomplished. All right. And then we also do it with elderberry. So this one is immune support. So if you want Get Mossed, you can go. I just made an Instagram for it. And on IG, it's Get Mossed 369. Go on there. You can order it at easydaysminimart.com. So it's EASYDAYS, easydaysminimart.com. You can order it there. And I'm going to be out this week giving out samples. So if you want to try it, just hit me up and let me know where I can come to you, and I'll bring you some samples, let you try it out, see what you think about it. And then if you like it, then you can get mossed. All right. All right. So I'm just about done here. And I'm excited that I was able to share this story with you guys. So also, I have a cleansing tea, and this cleansing tea will support you in weight loss, and it's a full body reset. It helps you, cleanse your body, so that way you can help prevent disease. So I also have sea moss as well. So if you're interested in any of these products, you can hit me up on Facebook. You can hit me up on Instagram, Easy Days underscore wellness. On Facebook, it's just my name, ELLENA, last name Smith, SMITH. And then also the other Instagram, Get Moss 369. So that's all the ways that you can find me. All right. So happy Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go touch some grass. Go let the sun hit the top of your head, because the sun is our biggest energy source on this planet, and that's what fuels us. All right, you guys. All right. Love you all, and elevate us.